Hi, welcome to Code with Benny. Alright, so in this tutorial, we'll discuss another model in nodejs. This model is the file system model. Okay, the file system model enables us to access our files. Okay, create directory, create files, delete files, append data to a file, and many others. We'll pick a few of the functions available in file system so that we will know what exactly the file system model really does. Okay, so to begin with, we'll first have to call the model or import the model. Okay, so we import the model and put it inside a variable that we'll call append file. So we'll start with the append file function inside the file system model. Okay. All right. So let's start. So this is append file. So it means that we are retrieving the append file from the file system model. So we call append file. Okay. So require. So we are requiring not fs. Okay. Okay. And this. Okay. Now, okay, I actually in my previous videos, I made mention that we have two types of data. Okay, we have the asynchronous and the synchronous. Okay, the synchronous usually ends with sync. Okay, and the asynchronous usually does not end with any sync. It's just the normal name, so the file name itself. Okay, so with this one, it's an asynchronous. Okay, all right. One more thing I would like us to be familiar is that usually when you are defining an asynchronous function, okay, it is not compulsory, it's not mandatory. You can choose to define it like this, okay, or if you want to be specific, okay, you can now include promises. Okay, so promises will, if you add promises to it, it will now ensure that this append file that you are using is an asynchronous, so that there won't be any system issues or there won't be any error messages like that. But you can choose to leave it like that, and if you don't include the promises, it's still fine. But I just wanted us to be familiar with defining the model or importing the model in this manner. Okay, if it is an asynchronous function. All right. So now let's go on. We've now defined the asynchronous function. All right. So the function that we are using is append file. Okay. The append file append data into a file. Okay. Now we need a file. Okay. We can still rely on nodejs to be able to create a file. Okay, but first of all, before we do that, we'll come back to that one. Before we do that, let's try and also learn how to create a file using the Visual Studio. Okay, so when you right click on this icon here at the left top corner, it will open a dialog box. Okay, so it will open a box here. Okay, when you click on this plus sign, okay, you click on it, it will create a new text file for you. Okay, all right. Now let's save this text file and let's save it as so any name you want to save it. I would save mine as uh, to code with Ben one. Okay, then I enter. All right. So I've created a file name code with Ben1. Okay, you can also create your own file with a different name if you're okay with that. Okay, so now let's continue. All right, so we want to append data. What we are about to do now is appending data to this file. Okay, all right, so when we check this file, the file is empty. Okay, we want to append data to the file. Okay, all right, so to be able to append data to a file, let's call this append file append file function. Then now when we call this append file, it will require us to insert a path. Okay, so you see when you highlight on this append file, it will ask us to insert a path. Okay, now we can either decide to create a path, because the path you've created, the file that you created, I hope you created it inside the same directory, okay, or the same folder where this one is. If you create it in the same folder, then you can follow along with me and everything will be fine. Okay, all right. So if you create it in the same folder, well, all that you need to do is to just write the file name code with ben one.txt. So always include the extension. Okay. All right. Now, because I'll be using a lot of this file, I'll be using a lot of this file. I will want to reuse the file, so I'll create a variable here, which I'll call let file. Then I put the file here. Okay. Then replace this path here with this variable. Okay, all right. So this is just because I want to reuse the file. I'll be reusing the file in my subsequent videos. I've created a variable. Okay, then I've mapped the value to the path. Okay, so the value here is the path. Okay, so now let's continue. All right, so the after the first argument, which is the path, the second argument we also need to include is the data. Okay, so what do we want to append to this file? What do we want to put to this file? We need to define what, or the message we want to write to the file. Okay, so my message I'll be um, this is my first file append with nodejs. Okay, all right. So this becomes the message I want to append to the file. Okay, all right. After that, what we need to also know is that there's a third argument that we ought to include, which is the callback function. Okay, now so this callback function, like our previous tutorials that we had, okay, but this particular one usually takes the error. Okay, so if there's an error with our code, or if there's an error with updating or with appending this file, then what how we want to handle the error is what we are defining as a callback function. Okay, all right, so we define the error like this, err. Okay, so this becomes uh, error callback function. Okay, get used to this error callback function, because mostly in node.js, even when you are doing web development, when you are doing backend, you still need to use this callback error message function. Okay, so you should be familiar with this particular callback error message. Okay, all right. So let's continue with, if you are, what we are saying is that if there's an error message, okay, what do I want to do? Okay, now because I just want to print out a message on just the same line, okay, it's not a message that will go to the next line. I do not really need to use the curly bracket or open the curly bracket. Okay, so I can decide to omit the curly bracket. Okay, yes. If your text, okay, spans on two or more lines, then you will need a curly bracket. But if your text is just on the same line, then you can decide not to use the curly bracket. Okay, so the message I just want to throw when there's an error is throw ER. So it means that if there's an error message, just throw the error message. Okay, when you are done, then console log print out this message on the standard output or on the terminal. Okay, All right, so this, or the, let's say the data has been successfully appended as requested. Okay, all right. So this message console log will be printed on the console. This message will be printed here. So you can see here that it has been appended. Okay, so you can see that it's been appended here. Okay, so you can see that the message has been appended here consecutive times. Okay, all right. So that is just about it with the append file. Okay, so the append file writes data to the file. So anytime we have the append file and we hit enter, it will definitely write data to the file. Now, remember that if you are using the no daemon, okay, it will run it consecutive time. It will run it several times because the no daemon, as we know, all the time checks your code. So anytime it's checking the code and the code is right and the code is correct, it will be appending the file into, it will append the data to the file. So you realize that it will print out, it will repeat the data consecutive times. It will be always be repeating the data. Okay. All right. So that's one thing that you should take note. Okay. So we've gone through the append file. Let's quickly look at another bit before we close this session and continue in our next tutorial. Okay, so the next one I would want us to take note is also an append file, but this time around we are using the psych version. Okay, we are not using the async, we are using the psych version. Okay, all right, because we are using the psych version, um, first of all, let's create a different file. Okay, so let's create another file and call this file psych append psych append. Okay, then we save it psych append. Okay, so we save it as psych append. All right. Okay, so let's continue with this. So we can clear this bit, or we can clear from here to here. All right, we'll just make some few changes to this file. Right. Okay, so what we'll do here is, because we are using the psych version, we'll add psych here and take away the promise, because it's not an asynchronous one, it's a psych one we are using. So we clear that one off, then leave just the fs. Okay, all right. Then what we ought to do now is, let's create the psych function. Okay, so to be able to create a psych function, let's put it inside a try. Okay, try and catch error. Okay, so that if there is an error message, it will catch it. If there is no error message, it will just um, throw it up, or it will just insert the data successfully for us. Okay, so we'll start with the try. So the try here, then let's close it, then let's define it here. So we have append file psych. Okay, then we define the path. Okay, I think I've deleted the file name here. Let's call back the file. So let's file, which is equal to, the path here is sync append.txt. Okay, all right. So then we can use file here, and then our next argument, okay, that we need to include is the message. Okay, so this time around we'll include the messages. Programming is fun. Okay, so this becomes the message that we have to include. All right, now take note that because we are using the try and catch, okay, we are using the try and catch function, okay, that basically means that we don't need the callback, okay. So because we are using the catch, if there's an error message, the catch will surely catch the error message for us. So we will not need to include any callback error message, okay. All right, so when it is done appending the file, what we are supposed to include is, let's say we do console log, uh, the data, or the data you want to append has been successfully appended. Okay. All right. So this becomes the message that will print out to the console if the append is successful. Okay. So you can see that there's nothing here. All right. Now let's continue and define the catch. Okay. All right. So if there's an error message, catch error. So let's say catch err. Okay. Then we define what error message or message that will be catch. So let's say if error message console log console error. Okay. All right. Now let's, so you can see that it has run because my no daemon is running. It has run the function. Okay. So it has appended the data. So programming is fun. Programming is fun. Programming is fun. Okay. So you can see that the data, this one has been appended to this file. Okay. All right. uh, if I run the function, okay, you can see that the console log has also printed to the terminal. Okay, the terminal has printed the console log message, so the data you want to append has been successfully appended. Okay. All right, and this one too is appending the data that we want it to append. So all right, so that is just about it with append asynchronous version and the append file psych, which is a synchronous version. Okay. All right. um, okay, so that is it about it for this tutorial. In the next tutorial we'll talk about the create link, and we'll talk about the on link psych. See you in the next tutorial.